Hello, 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 fight fans across the country. It is me, Alec Carr, uh, hosting Fights Unwrapped with my co-host right next to me, Dustin Hunt. Dustin, say hello to the good people real quick.
What's going on, everybody?
So, I'm gonna last week we had a crazy long show. This week will probably be a little bit shorter. Um, because there's not a lot of headlines, but there is a hell of a fight card, Dustin, to talk about. So real quick, I'm gonna do some plugs. You guys can follow me at AlecTDCar as always for my off the wall crazy ass opinions. You can yell at me like Dustin does on a regular basis in the fights chat. Please at me on Twitter. I love controversy. If you've watched the show, you know that we love controversy because Dustin and I will get loud with one another is a nice way to put it. You can also follow Dustin at No Censor Sports, and please follow Fights Unwrapped on Twitter. We got lots of all of our shows are announced on there. There's going to be fight stuff on there. So please follow Fights Unwrapped on Twitter, and then follow Unwrapped Sports Network on Twitter. It's what brings people like me, Dustin, Monique together. It's a great sports network. It's nationwide. It's actually international. We got people in Canada. We got people in Australia. We got people in Philadelphia like me. It's just super cool. You're getting opinions from people on the ground in those areas of what's going on. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, Unwrapped Sports Network. Follow us, subscribe, hit the little bell for reminders on YouTube. You'll get awesome reminders of when we're coming up. You'll get reminders of all the other really cool shows that the network has as well. I mean, we got shows nightly, just daily, just tons of content. It's awesome. Again, please like and subscribe to Unwrapped Sports Network. It's absolutely fantastic. Now to get into our sponsors, guys. We all know and love Carlos Condit. Unfortunately, he has retired. Well, fortunately, he should have retired. Had 2 wins, then lost a devastating fight and retired. But Carlos Condit does not sign on to sponsorships he doesn't believe in. It's his whole thing. That's what he believes. That's what he does. And he, my friends, loves RxHemp. As do I. Please go to rxhemp.com and use RxHemp-USN to get 10% off your entire order. This stuff is absolutely fantastic. If you're like me and you're too old and out of shape but want to go to the gym anyway, you should probably try some RX Hemp. It will make your life a lot better. So again, guys, it's RX Hemp-USN to get 10% off your entire order. And then also, we wouldn't be a fight show if we weren't sponsored by a bookie app. Please visit mybookie.ag today and use promo code USM100 for 100% sign-up bonus. There are some crazy, crazy odds in this fight card coming up on Saturday. You got 2 championship bouts, just a lot of insanity going on. Pretty crazy. I don't know if you saw this, Dustin. We'll get into it later, but Cyril is now favored against Francis Ganu. Absolutely insane. If you're not betting on this card, I don't know what you're doing if you're a gambler. So please visit mybookie.ag and use promo code USM100 for 100% sign-up bonus. Again, guys, it's 100% sign-up bonus. It's a crazy offer. Please use it. Please take advantage of it. Okay. So like I said, we don't have a lot of headlines. There's been kind of a headlineless week. All the headlines have to do with the main event in this card, so we're going to talk about them later. And for once, we're going to dive right into a card. We got UFC 270. It's absolutely insane. I know I'm excited for it. Dustin is excited for it. If Monique was here, she would tell you she's excited for it. We got heavyweights. We got small guys, Dustin. We got my 2 favorite divisions championships in this card. I am absolutely excited and cannot wait for Saturday night. Give me 1 second as I pull one last thing up on my computer. Here we go. But we're going to get started, and we're going to dive into this first fight. We have Rodolfo Vieira versus Wellington Truman, two Brazilian guys going at each other, two Brazilian jiu-jitsu artists. This is actually – I was actually really – for such a hell of a co-main and a main event, this card starts off pretty lackluster, Dustin. Does not start off with a bang.
Everything – guy making his UFC debut on this card. I couldn't believe it. I was like, what the fuck? But we'll let that go because the co-main and main are good. So
yes, so Rodolfo Vieira has been around for years and years and years. He's been at UFC for a couple of years. He hasn't really beaten anybody. He's got 2 wins in the UFC. He also left the UFC for a little bit, came back. So we got a journeyman, and then we got him fighting against Wellington Truman, who looks like an absolute monster, man. He's 25 years old. He's been part of 2 UFC. He's already been a part of 5 UFC fights. Coming off a victory off of Sam Alvey, which is not super impressive, but for a 25-year-old to go in there and do what he did, put up a great fight with Sam Alvey. I mean, it was a split decision. Sam Alvey's not the greatest fighter in the world, but he is also no joke. He's a legitimate UFC fighter, has been in the UFC for a long time, and will be in the UFC for a long time. He's not going anywhere. So we got pretty much 2 BJJ artists going at it. I'm excited. I love watching Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And these are 2 guys I don't really know much about. I remember watching that Alvey fight, but Dustin, go ahead, talk about it. What do you think is going to happen? I'm going with the young guy Truman in this fight, but go ahead.
Vieira is definitely superior on the ground. Oh, I think he's definitely superior. Maybe they're both good at it, but Vieira is superior. I'm looking up Truman right now, dude, because I'm going to tell you right now, there's not much I know about the kid. But
I can tell you
both on the ground. This goes to the ground. Vieira.
Yeah, Truman was in Immortal FC for a while. He's very young, 25 years old, so he's not even close to his prime fighting age.
Let's be honest, though. Should he be on a pay-per-view? He's 2-3, man. Like I don't see how he makes a pay-per-view.
I don't get it either. Honestly, I really don't get it. The only thing I can think of is there's no one on. I mean, Trevin Giles is on the undercard. He probably should be on the main card. He's fighting a 12. What?
Dana doesn't like Francis Ngannou. I almost look at this card and be like, were you trying to sabotage his ass? Because I understand that the co-main and main are good, but to be honest, the whole card sells the fight. I mean, the whole card sells it. Some people will literally not buy this shit because of this. This is pretty common, actually. But I'm buying it because I want to see the main event. We'll talk about the co-main event later. But I'm buying it because I want to see the main event. And I want to be live doing it. So, therefore, I will buy this fight, and I will be watching and probably covering. But the rest of the card is shit. Like, I'm just gonna
we got Michael Pereira. Come on, man. We got Pereira back. He's always a fun watch, dude. He's going to do some backflips. We'll talk about that later. We're going to move on to the next fight because this fight is really pointless, as Dustin has alluded to. This is a dumb fight. It doesn't make any sense. I'd much rather watch Giles versus Morales, who's a 12-0 fighter. I think he's making his UFC debut. If not, it's early on in his UFC career. And that's just a much better, more exciting fight. Not huge names, but guys that will put on a show. So I would have much preferred that. But Dana doesn't usually listen to our streams, apparently, because he doesn't understand that no one cares about this fight. Two Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu artists on going at it is not good selling. That being said, Truman can throw. He absolutely can. He's got power for days, so we will see what happens in that fight. But we're moving right along. We got Cody Stamann versus Saeed. I can never pronounce Khabib's last name. We got Khabib's relative.
I'm gonna sound it out. Actually, I'm gonna try this shit. See if I'm a G at this. Nurmagomedov. That's his last name.
You got it. Nurmagomedov. I just looked it up. So you're going with sorry, my computer's doing weird stuff. You're not even thinking about Cody Stamann at all, right?
I know him. I don't think he's, again, dude, I just don't understand the pay-per-view bout. Like, we couldn't get anybody else. Like, are we? I don't think, nah.
Well, let me give a background for Cody Stamann. Cody Stamann is a guy that Dana White sunk a lot of advertising into early on in his career. He's a guy that's got lots of potential. He's got a lot
straight.
I know he's got lots of potential. That's why he's on the main event, is because of the amount of money Dana's sunk into him. He needs a return on investment before he cuts him. He doesn't stand a chance in this fight. I don't know if anyone's watched the little Khabib, as I like to call him, the little eagle. He is an absolute stud. Is he as good as Khabib? No, he's not. He's just not. But he's an absolute stud. He's going to create problems in this division. He hasn't been in the UFC for very long. This is going to be his third fight. He's just an absolute beast. He's Khabib Jr. He's going to go in there and just do work on Stamann. Stamann doesn't stand a chance. Stamann is a guy that, hey, listen, he can wrestle, but it's not Sambo. It's not the same thing as we've talked about many times before. It is not the same style type. And he is not nearly as good at wrestling as Nurmagomedov. Period. Just these guys train with bears, dude. Quite literally train with bears. As much as I don't like them, they train with bears. They swim in freezing rivers upstream. They are built differently in Dagestan and Russia. We are seeing that in the UFC. These Dagestani and Russian fighters are taking over. It's happening. They are just built different, and Nurmagomedov is going to absolutely annihilate Stamann. Do you agree?
I agree, but I will point out he has lost about to an unranked guy. I mean, he has lost in the UFC, so he's not exactly a terror yet. He's still got a lot of proving left. Ask Makhachev. So he's gonna have to go on like a 7-8 fight win streak to get somewhere in this division. So especially in this one, because this one's loaded, and he's gonna have to go against a lot of tough guys. As far as the Dagestan takeover, I mean, Khabib took it over. I can't say it's taken over yet. I can't say that. Do I think he's going to destroy my man Stamann over here? Absolutely. Matter of fact, this dude has lost to less. I'll put it to you that way. He's lost to less. He's on the 2-fight losing streak, and he's on a fucking PPV card. Some fucking how. Dana, if you want to reach out to me and explain that to me, I'd love to have a conversation, because I'm trying to figure this shit out. I don't get it. But
Unrise Sports Network checking in with us. Yes, thank you to all the everyone tuning in every week. We appreciate our fans very, very much. And we appreciate Unwrap Sports Network, as I say every show. All right, I'm ready. When I was talking about with the Dagestani takeover and the Russian takeover, I think this is a very real thing and something that we could probably do a whole show about. If you look at every division, the hottest fighters in a lot of divisions are coming from that part of the world. I don't know what's happening. You got Islam, Kazmat Chimaev. I know he's he lives in Sweden, but he's originally not Swedish. Just look at his name. We can.
But he was
all
raised.
agree on.
I believe he was raised in Sweden, though. So
Correct. I'm just saying he's not originally Swedish.
quick question.
And we got Anklov. We got Davashvili. We got all these guys from that part of the world just absolutely killing their opponents. It's exciting. It's a little scary, but
here, can I ask a question though? Like, how the fuck do you put up a good fight with Song Yadong, which is a fucking monster, by the way, fucking monster. He is going to be a big player in the UFC in the next 5 years. Put it like that. How do you put up a fight against Song Yadong and lose to these guys? That doesn't make any fucking sense to me. I don't get what he did, but he did something. I don't know what went on in the camp, but there's no way you put up a fight against Song Yadong and can't fight some of these guys. Jimmy Rivera is okay. Jimmy Rivera is a good opponent, but Song Yadong is tougher than all these guys. So how the fuck I don't know. That's a question mark to me. This whole card is a question mark.
Definitely a question mark. Let's move on to a more exciting fight, though. We got Michael Pereira coming back off of 2 canceled fights, but he's coming off of win against 3 wins. One against Amadeev, which is not that impressive, but got beating Chaos Williams and then beating Nico Price. And we all know what Michael Pereira brings to the table. This is a guy that does backflips in the octagon while striking. He is an absolute show every single time he's in the octagon. Win or lose, he puts on a show. He's going to taunt you. He's going to yell at you. He's going to do some crazy stuff. He's going to throw feints. He's going to do backflips. He's going to try to jump off the cage and strike you. So we are in for it whenever he gets into the octagon, and he's stepping back into the octagon against Andre Vieira, who is making his UFC debut. This is what Dustin was talking about. This is a huge card for somebody to be making their UFC debut. Dana White's got he has to have a lot of faith in this fighter to put him up, not just in a UFC debut, but putting him up against a guy like Michael Pereira to start his UFC career, who's on a 3-fight win streak, and is, let me check, hold on.
It doesn't make much sense to me.
It doesn't make much sense to me. Michael Pereira is not currently ranked, which is kind of shocking. I thought he would be after those 3-fight win streak, but
he's a big dude.
That's shocking. I can't believe he's not ranked. Anyway, he should be ranked because his last win was very impressive against Nico Price. Nico Price got absolutely annihilated. And then
this guy's. I think he's a big striker. I think he's a striker. He's a big striker that's kind of electric. And I guess he has a lot of promotional invested. Like, he wants me to get big, but put him against Michael Pereira, dude. I mean, goddamn. I mean, could you let him knock somebody out first? Like somebody in the UFC? And you want to put him against Pereira? I mean, good luck.
Yeah, this is a guy that I will say this in UAE Warriors, which is not, it's not a great promotion. It's not the worst promotion.
Regional.
He's beaten James Vick. He's beaten Sang Hoon Yu. These are 2 guys that have been around for a long time. Both had stints in the UFC at one point. So he's beaten guys who have been there. James Vick was promoted as going to be one of the guys who's going to take over the UFC. Turned out, obviously, he's in UAE Warriors. That turned out not to be true. But he is a very good fighter. So it's not like this guy hasn't seen UFC-style talent. My thing with this is, like we said, is yes, this guy's got one-punch knockout. This guy can put anyone to sleep at any moment in the fight. That's just the kind of fighter he is. I did find some clips of him. He is one punch knockout. Absolutely. And if he is as advertised, he could create problems in the welterweight division, just with that power alone. Because it's not like from what it looks like, it's not just pure power. He does have some technique. I'm not going to call him the most technical striker ever, but he does have some good technique. I'm picking Michael Pereira in this fight.
No, it's
I just think it's not a fair first fight. Michael Pereira is, even though he does all that crazy shit, he is a technical striker. And you're putting him against a UFC rookie who's just going to go in there and try to knock him out. I don't really care what happens. I'll be excited to see a knockout. If this 27-year-old nobody comes in here and knocks out a name like Michael Pereira in his first UFC fight on a pay-per-view with 2 championship fights on it, I will fucking freak out, Dustin. I will be so happy for him.
Here's the thing. I will say he's a very big dude. He's a big dude. Like, for 170, he looks like Usman. Like, he's not like as defined, not like he doesn't look as athletic like the body fat percentage, but that dude looks like he is huge. He looks like he's a big boy. Probably could be at 185. But the thing about it is, it's like Pereira, in order to do the backflips and spin shit, a lot of people don't understand, you have to be technical. You have to be. Like, to throw that, you have to be really good to be able to throw a spinning kick. Like, clean.
Yeah.
You have to be very good. And I don't know, man. Like, this is a really rough start. I mean, if he loses this fight, I wouldn't even put it against him. I'd be like, man, I'm looking forward to see more, because this is a tough guy. Tough guy.
This is definitely one of the toughest debuts I've ever seen. I mean, even look at Patty. Patty made his debut against a fucking nobody. Like, this is shocking to me. Patty Pimblett, I'm talking about, of course. This is shocking to me. Michael Pereira is probably going to go in there and piece it up.
Hey, dude, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about Patty after the fucking shit.
All right, we'll talk about Patty later. But this is absolutely shocking. I'm going with Michael Pereira. I'm rooting for the young guy because I love young guys to come in and shock the world. It's very exciting. It always makes you stop, and the UFC always takes notice of the young guys that do this. Dana is doing this kid no freaking favors whatsoever, putting him against Michael Pereira, because when Michael Pereira gets hurt, the difference between him and a guy like Nate Diaz, right? Nate Diaz does all the taunting and stuff too. The difference between him is when Michael Pereira gets hurt, he gets in his technical stance and he starts throwing like technical strikes. And don't forget, black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu will take you down and start pulling on arms. He knows when to drop it. And if he gets rocked and doesn't get knocked out, look for this fight to go to the ground and look for Pereira, look for a submission. That's all I gotta say. But I'm gonna root for Andre. I hope he gets done. I hope he comes in here and knocks the crazy Michael Pereira out. I just don't see it happening. All right, we are moving right along. We have our co-main. We have a short fight card because we have 2 5-round championships. Dude, I'm going to let you go with this one first. We got Brandon Moreno, figure 3. I know you're not as excited as I am. I am thrilled for this fight. I can't wait for it. It's going to be, hopefully there's not a 4th fight. Then I'll get annoyed. But I love watching these guys go at it. They're both amazing fighters. And as everybody knows that watches this, the flyweight division is one of my favorite divisions. I love watching lower guys go at it because they are quick and fast and also the same size as me, which makes me happy to watch them as professional athletes. Little guys unite. I'm going to let you talk about this one first because I have lots of thoughts and I am a little undecided of what I think is going to happen. So go ahead, Dustin. Why don't you give me your breakdown on this fight and let me know what you think is going to happen and who's going to win?
I don't think that I'll ever not be excited to see Figgy fight. Figgy's an explosive guy, stupid power, stupid athletic. He's good all around. I am worried about Moreno a little bit in this fight because I think Moreno has taken that victory lap. I think he's got a lot of exposure from the UFC since he won against Figgy. And I think that he's making his little championship victory lap. And I really hope that he's not getting comfortable because Figgy is about to fight. Like this is not a joke. Moreno got him last time, and I think it was pretty early, if I'm not mistaken. A little bit earlier than people expected. I think Moreno can stand with him. I think he can go on the ground with him. I think that Moreno should win. I think he should win. I think he's already felt his power. I think he's already been in there enough with Figueiredo to understand his game, to understand how hard he hits, to understand his speed, to understand the range to fight. I think he understands him a lot. But the one thing I'm kind of worried about is that championship relaxation. Don't take that victory lap because it ain't over yet. I'm like you. I'm begging Moreno to win because if I have to witness a fourth fucking fight, I'm going to just wait for ESPN's news at midnight. I'm not buying that shit. I'm going to be completely honest. There better be a really good main event to decide to because I'm not buying that shit again. Moreno, please beat him. I might even put my confidence in you enough to bet on you just to see if I can win some money off you. I'm putting my confidence on you. I think Moreno can edge it out. I think he'll beat him again. I think he's really developed as a fighter in all ways. And I think he'll be a champion for a little bit. I don't think Figgy's going to beat him, to be honest. If Figgy was going to beat him, he would have done it in the first fight. He would have done it in the second fight. And for some reason, I don't think the outcome's going to be different. I'm just hoping he doesn't relax. Because if he relaxes, Figgy is going to knock him the fuck out. I'm telling you that right now. He is going to knock you the fuck out. He's done it to a million other dudes. So don't think he's not going to do it to you. Don't relax in there. That's it, man. But I'm begging him. Please win. I swear to God, please win. Because I'm tired of this shit. I don't want to see this shit again. I'm so tired of this shit. And then I'll let you go.
My thing with this fight is that I am signing more towards Brandon Moreno, but for different reasons. Brandon Moreno, don't get me wrong, is an absolute stud. He is incredible. He is the epitome of the Mexican fighter's heart. He really is. The guy digs deep. He always has. He comes back. He doesn't go away. You can't knock him down. You can't knock him out, is what it looks like. Because even in these, when Dustin said he has felt Figgy's power, he has felt Figgy's power and have been the only one to get hit clean by Figgy in the flyweight division and just stare right back at him. So Brandon Moreno can absolutely win this fight. I'm not trying to take anything away from him with what I'm about to say. Deiveson Figueiredo is 34 years old. Deiveson Figueiredo is probably a natural 160 and is cutting down to 125. At 35 years old, he has struggled in his last 3 fights to really make that weight cut, especially the last 2 fights against Brandon Moreno, where in the draw, he was in the hospital the entire night before the fight and came in entirely dehydrated. The UFC should not have let him fight. They should have canceled the fight. He was near death the night before the fight and still got into that octagon. And the UFC gave him the option. We can cancel the fight. And he said, Biggie doesn't give a fuck. He's going to fight. If he can stand, he's going to fight. No. And I got to give him credit for that as a champion. he could have easily said, let's reschedule, but he said, nope, we booked the fight. I'm fighting. Because he was the champion at the time. So the second fight comes. He still struggles to make weight. That's what happened. He struggled. He actually had to be reweighed. At 35 years old, he is extremely struggling making that 40 to maybe even 50-pound weight cut because he's a big flyweight. Not tall. He is just jacked. That's why he carries that power that he does. That's why he is a flyweight. You don't see a lot of flyweights with one-punch knockout power because they don't make that big of a weight cut that he does. He's naturally bigger and stronger than the rest of them. That's why he's been so dominant. But I think at this age, if he comes in and did not manage his weight the way he has in the past when he was younger, the same thing's going to happen. He's going to get tired. Brandon Moreno's going to take advantage, and he's going to take him down to the ground, and he's going to choke him out again. That's exactly what happened. That's what you were talking about in the third round of the last fight. Figgy got gassed. It was the first time we've ever seen Figgy gassed, is when he fought Brandon Moreno in the draw and then in the second time. It was shocking. It was scary because Figgy is a guy that used to be able to go 5 rounds no problem. And for that reason and that reason alone, I am going with Brandon Moreno. I think he wins this fight. I don't know exactly how, but I do think Figgy is going to struggle making weight. I think he's going to struggle a lot making that weight cut like he has, and I think Brandon Moreno is going to take advantage of it. I'm not trying to take anything away from Brandon Moreno, but I will be honest, Dustin, if I was picking this fight based on pure talent, I would pick Figgy. I would. I think he is the more talented fighter.
I agree.
But I just don't think he can make the weight cut anymore. I don't think he's done in the UFC. I think he can easily step up. I think he can. And I think he should. I think he really should to stop putting so much stress on his body. So we'll see what happens. I don't think he wins this fight. I hope, and I'm also hoping, because if we look at this division, this exciting flyweight division, which I can't believe I'm saying, the flyweight division has been dead for so long. But you got Askarov taking a fight because we had to do this trilogy against Kai Kara-France. He doesn't get his championship bout that he deserves. We all picked last 2 weeks ago when we talked about Askarov against Kai Kara-France. We all said Askarov's probably going to win. That being said, if Figgy does beat Brandon Moreno, got a question for you, Dustin. Will you be angry if Askar doesn't get his chance and we have to watch a quad, whatever you would call that, a fourth fight?
I can't be mad because of how competitive these two are with each other. Do I like it as a fan? Not speaking from an analytic point of view. Do I like it as a fan? No. Do I like it as you can't argue with it? Sort of. Because you really can't. How competitive these two have been, it's kind of hard to tell one of these guys, like, nah, fuck you, man. Like, we got to move on. It's kind of hard to say that because I think those two are at the top of the ladder. I mean, you got to beat one of them to get there. And I think if Moreno wins this fight, Askarov's going to get his shot if he wins here shortly, which is a big risk for him. So kudos to him for taking that fight because he could have not. And actually, about the weight cut, if you want to talk about that shortly later after Patty, I have another question. Maybe what we should add. Should universally MMA go by the same rules, hydration rules, as one championship?
Let's talk about that in a second. I want to get my way in on this. The question I asked you. I want to answer my own question. Askarov is a guy that definitely deserves it. There's very little people in the UFC that deserves a championship fight more than him. People just don't realize it because he's in the flyweight division. He's a guy that hasn't lost. He hasn't lost in the UFC. He's a draw against the now champion Brandon Moreno, which was his first UFC fight. was against Brandon Moreno. Since then, he has destroyed Tim Elliott, destroyed Alexander Pantoja, and destroyed Benavidez. Askar Askarov, to me, is the most terrifying guy in the division. He's the hottest guy in the division. And his striking capability and his knowledge of how to use his length is absolutely terrifying. Especially in the flyweight division when people usually don't have that type of length. I would be a little pissed off. It depends what happens in this fight. If this is a really close fight that goes to the decision, then yeah, of course. And Figgy wins, and it is actually really close. It's not like a 10-8 round here, 10-8 round that. Like, if it's actually really close, then okay, I can get on board with the fourth fight. If it's not, and Figgy wins this fight in pretty unanimously, like, okay, we all watched the fight and we're like, all right, Figgy whooped Moreno's ass. He got his weight cut down pat to science again, and he whooped Moreno's ass. I still think Askar Askarov should jump the line. I think he should. He deserves it. It's not fair to make him have to fight. Who's he going to fight? He's beaten all the top-ranked guys. So who's he going to fight again? We're going to see him fight Pantoja again? I don't need to see that. I don't care about that fucking fight.
Maybe Kara France. It could be a one.
Maybe. We'll see what happens in their fight coming up. But, like, I think he's going to whoop Kai's ass. If he whoops Kai's ass, who's the fuck is he going to fight again? Brandon Royval? I mean, Royval's coming off that dub, so maybe. But anyway, to answer the question you posed.
France might be a...
Yeah, I just think he deserves that fight. So let's go back to the question you posed because it's a very good question. And it's one that I might get flack for because people are going to be kind of shocked by my answer as I am very supportive of fighter safety, fighter pay. I try to be a strong advocate for it, except for maybe Francis Ngannou. We'll talk about that later. But I don't like the rule. I don't like the rule. I think it's why one championship will never be as successful as they could be. Cutting is, if you can maintain, I understand it's more about, it's not about competitiveness. It's more about fighter. It is about competitiveness, but the rule is there for fighter safety in one championship. And I get that. I understand it. But the UFC, what I think they need to do is do a better job at managing their fighters. So a guy like, if Figgy comes in and he struggles to cut his weight, the UFC needs to pull him inside and say, the next time you fight, you are not fighting at flyweight. You're not doing it because you can't make the weight cut. It is too dangerous. I would like to see that. Steeper fines for missing weight. Steeper penalties for missing weight so that fighters are more likely to fight in the right weight class. I'm in support of that. I don't like the idea of restricting where you can fight and how much poundage you can cut. I don't like that because there are guys in the past that have been able to maintain large weight cuts. And I know it kind of kills the competition. We can look at Khabib. We can look at Khabib and say there's no way he should have been fighting at lightweight. He's making a 50-pound weight cut, but he managed it. And if you're able to manage it, the way I see it is pretty much like a free market. If you can do it, you should be allowed to. If you can't do it and you struggle to make weight and you have to be weighed a second time on multiple occasions, or if you can't make weight and the fight has to be canceled, you have to forfeit your purse. There needs to be steeper punishments because fighters don't give a shit. And it's been happening more and more. And Paul Felder, one of our favorite guys in the UFC, just everything, has been a strong advocate of the UFC, and I agree with him, of the UFC punishing these guys for not making weight. Not just punishing them and taking away a cut of their purse, saying, you're not fighting, and we're taking $5,000 from you. Fight in the correct weight class. So I don't know, Dustin, I kind of already know your opinion of this because we've gone back and forth on it before. But go ahead and give me your thoughts before we get into our main event, which will probably take up the rest of the show.
Here's my problem. I don't think that one championship makes you not able to cut weight. I think, well, the biggest problem with one, they actually test hydration, which basically doesn't not let you not cut weight. I think that's not very accurate. They let you cut weight, but what they will not let you do is do what wrestlers are famous for, and literally dehydrate themselves to the point that they weigh this amount. They will test your hydration at weigh-in. They will make sure that you are a hydrated fighter when you step on a scale. I don't think that's a bad thing. Just first of all, you're telling me that guys like Kamaru Usman that has the muscle mass of a 230-pound dude is hydrated when he weighs 170? I don't think so. I don't think he is at all. I don't think Conor was hydrated when he weighed in at 145. There's no fucking way. Absolutely not. Another thing is, again, they let you cut weight. They just don't let you be dehydrated. And I think that would up the competition. You can see as many dominant fighters. If they really made Kamaru Usman dehydrated, guess where he'd fight? 205. Probably 185 at the slightest.
Let me interrupt you for a second. You need dominant fighters. If you don't have dominant fighters, you don't sell fights. Period. You don't. You can't sell fights to the masses if you don't have a dominant fighter. It's that way in every sport. Dynasties are good for sports, whether we like them or not. They're good for sports. They sell. Dynasties sell. People tune in to watch the Patriots lose.
If you can't make weight without being dehydrated and unhealthy, you shouldn't be there. That's my complete opinion. You should be able to drop weight without being dehydrated.
I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you because I do believe in keeping these fighters safe, and I do believe in just athlete safety in general. What I'm saying is there have been guys like Conor, Kamaru, Khabib who can manage it better, that don't have all the health issues because they are managing that dehydration and weight cut better. They're not the issue with some of these guys who are coming in dehydrated isn't necessarily. First of all, it is a way to limit weight cut because that's what they're doing when they're testing dehydration. And some
you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that.
Listen. There are some people who do it the right way, and I don't know how to go about explaining that right now because it would take forever, and we do have a main event to talk about. But there are some guys that do it the right way with applied sciences, and there are some guys who do it like they did it at their high school wrestling, which has no science applied. It's just Coach John Smith, who wished he was a professional wrestler, screaming at you to make weight. Who could have been in the 1980 Olympics, but the Olympics were boycotted that year, so now I'm pissed off at it. Yes, no, you should not do it that way. The issue is you can make this, Dustin. I'm going to make a leap right here. You can make this a fighter pay issue, the dehydration thing. If fighters made more money, they could hire better nutritionalists to be part of their team to do the dehydration for the weight cut the right way with applied sciences so it did not affect their long-term health. That is the issue. The issue is that these guys don't have the resources to pay the people to teach them how to do it the right way. That is what's fucked up to me.
Well, they're not LeBron James. They're not LeBron James. I mean, they can't spend $1 million.
You don't have to be LeBron James. Listen, dude, LeBron James has a team. I'm talking about just hiring one high-level nutritionalist. LeBron James hires a whole team of 30 professional nutritionalists. He goes overkill on it. He doesn't just have a nutritionalist. He's got a dietitian. He's got a freaking protein expert, a chemist on his team. Like, that's a different level. What I'm talking about is being able to hire somebody who can teach you how to weight cut correctly so it doesn't affect your long-term health. And that is possible. Guys like Conor did it early on in his career. He spent the money to hire those guys early on in his career. You can find it in interviews. He talks about it. Khabib is a crazy Dagestani who's just, he's like the exception to the rule. He's just a Dagestani. Like,
he missed weight. He missed weight like twice. So let's get that right.
He did. He did miss weight twice.
Okay, so let me put a personal experience, right? So again, I'm a big dude too. So I'm about 6'1". I've weighed 194. That's about almost natural. I've cut down to 169 in literally a month. I did not do that dehydrated. I was hydrated the whole time. I was eating okay the whole time. It doesn't take being dehydrated to cut 20 pounds. It really doesn't. Maybe you have to change your workout schedule a little bit to make you not weigh as much. But it doesn't take dehydration. In my opinion, if you're dehydrated at a weigh-in, you fucked up. That's why you fucked up. And you had to be on a bike, and you had to sweat that shit out, and you had to grind it out. Which on fight day, it's gonna hurt you because your chin's not gonna be as good, your cardio is not gonna be as good. And I'm telling you right now, if you have to be dehydrated to make a weight, you shouldn't fucking be there. And that's just my opinion. And we can agree to disagree. I feel your point, the promotional wise. But in my opinion, dude, if you have to be dehydrated to make a certain weight, you shouldn't be there.
No, I get your point too. I think this is the one time where we're not going to yell at each other on it when we disagree, because I do get your point. I understand it. I really do. But at the same time, I like to take a step back and look at the business aspect of UFC because it just fascinates me. And that's how I think about things is business-wise. It would severely hurt the UFC, in my opinion. It really would. But unfortunately, we gotta move on. We do have to move on because we do have a very, very important main event. One that has had unnecessary drama surrounding it. Not shit talking, which is a little weird. Just unnecessary drama. We got a crybaby in one corner and another guy in the other corner who's just being quiet and letting his manager talk, whose manager should probably just shut the fuck up. We got Francis, one of our favorite fighters here at Fights Unwrapped. We got Cyril Gane against Francis Ngannou. This is a huge heavyweight fight. There are lots of implications for Francis Ngannou. He could no longer be in the UFC. He could be in the UFC. He could go box Fury, which is a terrible decision for him. He could go to WWE. I've heard rumors about just all kinds of things. Francis Ngannou thinks he is this incredible person who is very marketable and deserves more money. And that's what this fight has been more about, is should Dana White pay Francis Ngannou? First, before we get into all the drama, Dustin, let's talk about the fight. Let's talk about the fight, the pure fight. Let's not get into the drama at first. We'll get into that afterwards. Cyril Gane versus Francis Ngannou, because take the drama aside. If the drama wasn't there, this is one of the most interesting matchups we have seen in the heavyweight division in a very, very long time, maybe even ever. We have a power striker versus a pure technician kickboxer. It's going to be crazy. We're going to see haymakers thrown from one side and probably point boxing from the other side, even though Francis is saying, don't you try to point box me. Don't you try it. Trying to bait Cyril Gane into fighting his fight. I have been very vocal about this. I have watched lots of tape. I've watched lots of previous fights of both fighters. I am in the Cyril Gane camp. I am picking him 100%. I don't think this fight makes it past the fourth round. To be honest with you, I think the way Cyril Gane fights is Francis Ngannou is going to gas out, and Cyril Gane is going to either finish with a TKO or he's going to knock Francis Ngannou out. more likely a stoppage than a knockout because Francis Ngannou is just, he's a Nigerian, terrifying human being who's not easy to put down. So I am going Cyril Gane just from a standpoint of if Cyril Gane has been rocked. That's the one thing that people haven't really talked about. Cyril Gane has been rocked in previous fights. He's been hit. Cyril Gane also has 2 submissions to his record in the UFC, his short UFC record. Very impressive ones at that. We're not talking about like he lucked into a chokehold. We're talking about setting up submissions. This is a guy who's supposed to be just a kickboxer. Turns out in his UFC debut, wins with an arm triangle choke. I just watched that fight again this morning. Absolutely insane. He set that up perfectly on the ground and locked it in and got it. An arm triangle choke is not something you see that often. And then follow that up with his second UFC fight with a heel hook that he set up again and got into the correct position to get that heel hook. That shows me that this guy can wrestle. He has some Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu knowledge. He knows what he's doing on the ground. And if Francis Ngannou does rock him, he's going to shoot and get him on the ground because Ngannou is terrible down there. Just terrible. So I just, the way Francis wins, he's got more than a puncher's chance, in my opinion, because he is a very, very good fighter. He's not Derek Lewis out there, just throwing haymakers. But I think the only way he does truly win this fight is if he catches Cyril Gane, catches him clean, and then follows up with a combination. And I just don't see it happening. So then for that matter, after my rant of this fight, because I'm so excited about it, I'm picking Cyril Gane. I don't think he get past the 4th round. Dustin, how do you feel? What do you think about this fight?
First of all, there's a couple things Gane can't do that he's done in previous fights, because me and you both have watched tape. One thing he better not do that I've seen him do in the past is he's technical, but he also likes to jump in the pocket a little bit. And that's where he got those KOs. That's where he got those. And first of all, we'll talk about his little short record in the UFC. I don't even think it's short. I think it's murderous. Murderous. The fighters he's had to go through is murderous. This is not like he fucking warmed up to fight some nobody in the heavyweight division. He was fighting tough fucking dudes every time. Rosenstrike, fucking Derek Lewis, Volkov, dude, fucking name it. He beat. His UFC resume is better than guys who have been in the UFC for fucking 6 years. So I'll end that short resume. It ain't short. It ain't short. It's long. It's real fucking long. I'll give you that. Real long, actually. Holds a lot of weight. The thing he can't do with Ngannou, if you jump in that pocket, I'm telling you, bro, it's going to end bad. You better stay on that outside. And also, the thing I recognize about Gane is he likes to do a feint where he drops his head a little bit, but not a regular feint. Like he drops the head. If he drops that head against Ngannou is famous for that fucking uppercut. And if you let him land that when you feint, bruh, you're gonna end up on your back. I don't care how experienced you are. You're gonna end up on your back. If you do that against Ngannou, he's gonna catch it, and you're gonna get fucked up. Gane shouldn't try to outpoint him because, first of all, here's the thing. This is where I fucking can't stand Francis Ngannou. I can't fucking stand him, and I've gotten to a point where I think he's a little fucking troll. He said, "Don't try to take me to the 5th round." First of all, I'm gonna tell you something about Francis Ngannou. He is a huge fucking dude, and he's got a lot of muscle. If you drag him out to the 4th to 5th round, those muscles ain't working the same, homie. They ain't working the same no more. I'm going to tell you that right now. Any boxer will tell you this right now. If you have a powerful fighter in front of you that can punch, ask Muhammad Ali. If you have a powerful puncher You need to drag him out. You need to take him to the, like in boxing, you want to take that dude to the 7th, 8th round and let him get tired. You want to take him to the 6th, 7th. And in MMA, let Francis Ngannou act like he's going to knock you out and drag him to the 3rd, drag him to the 4th, drag him to the 5th, and it gets easier. Why the fuck Francis Ngannou thinks that he's more powerful in the 5th or 4th round than he is in the 1st and 2nd? I have no clue. No clue. Why he said that if you try to survive out of 2 rounds that you're not going to beat me, that is his plan. Matter of fact, if I'm his coach, I'm literally that he knows Francis. He trained Francis. Don't act like this guy doesn't fucking know you. He knows you. He's your trainer. So therefore, he's acting like if he gets out of the 2nd round, that he is more lethal in the 3rd to 5th, and that is wrong. You are not. You're just not. It's not even scientifically correct, if you ask me. You are not as powerful in the 5th round, unless you're taking steroids or a PED. You are not as powerful in the 4th round. You're not. So therefore, he better try to not gain out in the 1st or 2nd. If Ganu gets past that 2nd fucking round, it's going to be hellacious for Ngannou. He is going to get picked apart if Ngannou gets tired. Picked apart. So yeah. I don't know what the fuck he's talking about.
Yeah, real quick before we get into the drama around this fight, I want to bring up something that you just talked about. Francis Ngannou in his UFC career has only been outside the 2nd round twice. And both times he's been outside the 2nd round, he has lost. One was against Derek Lewis, one is against Derek Lewis, which is quite frankly embarrassing. You should not ever lose a decision against Derek Lewis. That is embarrassing. That is an embarrassing loss. That was the fight afterwards. He fired his Cyril Gane's coach. So
because it's his fault. It's his
right,
fault.
because it's his fault. My other thing that to bring in Stanima, Cyril Gane can go. He can go. That's what's most impressive about this guy, because this is a guy that's just as big as Francis Ngannou. He is just as big, like exactly just as big as Francis Ngannou. And the fact that he can just fight and fight and fight in 2 5th rounds and like, I think Cyril Gane's one of those rare UFC fighters who can go past the 5th round. I think he could. I think he has the stamina for it. I don't ever want to see a UFC fighter go past the 5th round, but I think he absolutely could. Cyril Gane is an absolute monster. He is something the UFC division has, and I've said this a million times, and I'll say it a million more. Cyril Gane is something the UFC has never, ever, ever, that MMA has never, ever, ever, and I'm going to throw this out there, not just the UFC, that MMA has never, ever, ever seen in the heavyweight division. Cyril Gane is that. Cyril Gane is a guy that can fight and fight and fight and fight and fight. In the heavyweight division, which is unheard of. These guys, even like Stipe Miocic, who is one of our favorite fighters, who, again, is not being talked about nearly enough anymore. But that's a different topic for a different day, because we're coming up on the end of our time here. Even Stipe Miocic, who was a smaller heavyweight, struggled in the 5th rounds. I honestly believe Cyril Gane could fight 6, 7, 8 rounds. This guy is an absolute monster. He looks just watching some of his fights over the week and last week, he looks like a light heavyweight fighting, but bigger than all the other heavyweights that he's fighting against. It is absolutely insane. He's a freak of nature athlete. He's just one of those guys, Dustin, just one of those guys that's just born to be a fighter. Just born to be a fighter. Now, that being said, he could easily lose this fight. I'm not saying this is a lock for him. I don't want anyone to think I am, but Cyril Gane should absolutely win the fight, but he could easily lose. All right, so now we're going to go a little bit over an hour because we got to talk about this drama, Dustin. We got to talk about it. We got to really, really talk about it, and we don't just have to talk about it. We got to rant about it. Francis Ngannou, you have lost me as a fan. You have lost me as a supporter. You have lost me and made me relook at the reasoning for fighter pay being higher. Seriously, you have. Now, I do agree that it absolutely has to be higher, but there is a responsibility that falls upon these fighters. There is a responsibility to market yourself. There is a responsibility to make the UFC more money so that they can give you more money. That's how economies work. And Francis Ngannou, you have to shut up. You can't want to be this mean guy and then also be known as a nice guy too. You can't fire your coach because you lose to Derek Lewis and then blame him for everything, that it's all his fault, and say that he's a horrible person when literally he saved your life when you came from Africa as an illegal immigrant into France. Saved your life. That's a real story. That's a real thing, and that Francis Ngannou has talked about in the past. You can't then go back and start trashing him as a horrible person, as somebody who has just stolen money from you. And then also come at Dana White saying, I was in his corner, Dustin. I was in Francis's corner until he said publicly that he wants it in his contract, that his biggest issue is not just pay. He wants it in his contract that he's allowed to box. Why would the UFC ever let one of their top fighters go to another sport and get hurt and never be able to make the money again? Fuck the UFC, fuck sports. Why would my employer let me go to another company, make them more money, and have the opportunity to never make my company money again? That's just not how business works. That's not how the world works. You can't just demand that happen. The UFC, you are a valuable asset to the UFC. They're not just going to go let you box because you feel like it and you feel like you have marketability. If you go ask a casual fight fan who Francis Ngannou is, they're going to have no idea who that is. Francis Ngannou, your name is not known amongst casual fight fans. It's not known amongst the guys that only tune in for the UFC, for the big fights. Your name on a fight is not a big fight. It is just not. And you going to fight Tyson Fury does nothing. You would not make that much more money than you're currently making. You have to market yourself. It is your responsibility. Sugar Sean O'Malley said it the best. It is your responsibility to make the UFC have to pay you more. Conor McGregor did it. Sugar Sean is doing it. Paddy Pimblett is about to do it. These fighters, you have to support yourself. Now, before I let Dustin take over and before my rant's done, I will say the base pay for fighters, the one thing I agree with Jake Paul about, the base pay for UFC fighters needs to go way the fuck up. But at a certain point, if you want to be a prize fighter, you got to make yourself a prize fighter and you got to market yourself the right way. You can't be this go back and forth between mean guy, nice guy. You can't say passive aggressive shit like I knocked out Cyril Ganu too, but I don't have to say anything about it. You literally just said something about it while saying you're not going to say anything about it. Shut up, Francis Ngannou. Either be the quiet badass that beats people the fuck up, or be a loud, boisterous asshole like Conor McGregor. You can't be both. It doesn't work. Cyril Ganu, honestly, I don't know if his heart's in this fight. I think he has horrible management who is leading him the wrong way. I can't believe I'm agreeing with Dana White on this, Dustin. I just can't. He clearly has horrible management who is building him up and making him believe that he's worth way more than he is. And he's giving him awful advice, just awful advice about what he should go after, and how he should go about doing it. It is absolutely disgusting. He needs to fire his management staff and get new ones. And somebody who will teach him, instead of saying yes to him, because he's clearly just surrounded by yes men. Instead of just saying yes to him, need to tell him, dude, we want you to make more money. Because if you make more money, guess what? As a manager, I make more money. But this is what you got to do it. And he just won't do it. And it's getting to the point where it's annoying. It's getting to the point where I'd rather see him go to the UFC. I'd rather see the UFC lose a great fighter like Francis Ngannou than have to deal with him anymore, because he's that annoying. Dustin, I am done. I will let you talk.
Okay, so we'll talk on marketability. This fight was the biggest PPV potential that I've ever seen in my life when it came to personal rivalry, when it came to bad blood with an old coach, which has happened in boxing, which has happened, and they took advantage of it, by the way. Floyd Mayweather's dad coached against him in the fight. It happened. It happened. And it was a big fight. Huge. Here's the thing about this fight. If his management was smart, they would have did an entire press run on that man as his old coach. Entire press run. Fuck Ganu. Fuck Ganu. Fuck him. I know he's a good fighter, but fuck him. You didn't have to talk about your opponent. You could have literally played on this rivalry with your ex-coach. And if you played and marketed it right, this PPV would sell 1.2. Would sell 1.2. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. Ngannou is a fucking monster, and he's a physical freak. And he's going to be able to play on being the baddest man on the planet if he knocks out Cyril Gane. If he would have played it smart on this fight, he would have made millions off this fight. Why the fuck he wants to sit here and argue with the UFC instead of going at his ex-coach, talking shit, market the fight a little bit, talk shit to Cyril Gane, do all of that. If you would have just taken the time to market what the fuck is right in front of you. Right in front of you. Fuck boxing. If you think you can box Tyson Fury, you're a fucking idiot. You're a fucking idiot. Deontay Wilder is the strongest puncher I've ever fucking seen, and that includes you, Francis. That includes you. Deontay Wilder has put men in the hospital with one punch. One. Just one. You have not put anybody in the hospital. Deontay Wilder hits way harder than you, big boy. And he had to go 12 rounds with Tyson. And at least Wilder knew how to box a little bit. You have no fucking clue what you're in for when you step in that boxing ring, dude. No fucking clue. It's going to be a bad night. Yeah. It's going to be a bad fucking night.
That's why Dana won't let him go do it, man, because he's going to get hurt. Like, he won't ever be able to fight again after that fight. Like, Tyson Fury is the greatest heavyweight, active heavyweight alive. He's the greatest heavyweight we've seen in years. And, like, he would hurt him.
Here's another thing. I also blame it on Dana. I also blame a little bit of the marketing on Dana. I think that his bad blood with the contract and the bad blood they've had, Dana didn't market him the way he should have. I think Dana should have blown this the fuck up, and he didn't. I think because he doesn't want to give Francis any weight when it comes to negotiation. I don't think he tried, dude.
I'm gonna argue against it, and I hate doing this because I don't like agreeing with Dana White. Just don't. He's a little douchebag. He's a little bald.
Before you go, let me explain why. Because I mean, I know you well enough. I see what your answer may be. But here's the thing. I know Dana, and he's a cheap fuck. So we're gonna keep going on that little cheap fuck little scandal here. If he really marketed Francis Ngannou correctly in this fight and really did his due diligence in this fight, in this pay-per-view, this would have blown the fuck up. I don't think he wanted it to happen. I don't think he wanted it to blow the fuck up because, yes, he'd have made a lot of money off it, but guess what? He's got to deal with Francis Ngannou's fucking mouth for the next 5-6 years, for the next 6-fight contract, and champions only fight twice a year. So there you go. I think it was a double-edged sword. I think both of them were being petty as fuck, and I think this fight should have been better, and I think it should have been more marketed. And I think both of them killed themselves, in my complete opinion, over personal shit, and it shouldn't have happened. That's it. And Ganu is a fucking fool for not marketing it.
I see what you're saying. I do. I get it. Dana definitely is at fault here. I don't think he explained it well enough to him, but he can only suggest to Francis Ngannou so much. And Ngannou's got to execute the marketing. He's got to. And I think this is why Dana's been so pissed off at him. Because there was a time where him and Ngannou, he loved him. He was his ticket. He was his ticket to making the heavyweight division the most popular division in the UFC, which therefore would make the UFC the most amount of money because people like watching heavyweight fights. That's what it is. It doesn't matter if it's boxing or the UFC or Bellator. People like watching quality heavyweight fights because someone's going to sleep. I honestly think the reason why Dana is so pissed is because, and why he's been coming at his marketing, at Francis's management, saying that he's got the worst management staff in the entire UFC, is because they won't listen to him. They won't say, hey, dude, I swear that Dana White is a marketing genius. Whether we like him or not, he just is. And I guarantee you he went to Francis Ngannou and his marketing team before the John Jones fight, because this is when this started, was before the John Jones, before that was booked. This is when this started. He went to them and said, Francis, you have to market yourself. You have to do these things. You have to be the heel or the hero. You can't be both. You can't be both. And guys, like, if you go back in history fighting, we take Conor McGregor, we take Muhammad Ali, we take some of these guys, like you take Floyd Money Mayweather, you take some of these guys who perfected. Now Floyd is different. Yeah, let's just look at Muhammad Ali, right? Let's just look at him, the iconic,
the originator,
the best,
by the way,
the first, the one that changed boxing forever and how it's marketed. Let's just look at him. All right. George Foreman and Muhammad Ali are, I'm sure you know this, Dustin, are best friends. They were best friends. They were absolute best friends before that fight was booked.
Hey, dude, Muhammad Ali got picked up by George Foreman from the fucking airport.
And Muhammad Ali booked the fight because Muhammad Ali was very integral in booking in all of his fights and all of his contracts because he's the greatest boxer of all time. We're not going to get into that argument, but I'm throwing that out there. Muhammad Ali called him and said, hey, George, I just want to let you know that we booked the fight, everything's signed, the paperwork's done. You're going to hear a lot of stuff said tomorrow leading up to this fight that's going to make you think I hate you. I still love you, George. I love you so much. I just want you to know that I'm going to make us a lot of money. Those are exactly what he told George Foreman. The next day, he came out and said, oh, I'm fast. I'm fast.
Berated him.
George Foreman said he had to turn off the TV because they couldn't watch it. It doesn't all have to be true, Ngannou. It just has to be marketed that way so that the UFC can pay you. 9 times out of 10, when Conor McGregor is talking shit against, now not anymore, but when he was coming up and he was talking his shit before fights, he didn't mean it. You best believe that the bullshit that him and Floyd put together for their international tour was just that. It was bullshit. Hey. They took a flight. They took a private plane together to the fight. They're friends. It's like this whole idea that Francis Ngannou thinks he should just be paid more and not have to work harder is bullshit. It's bullshit, and I hate it. And it's honestly, like I said in my rant, You've lost a fan, Francis Ngannou. You've lost lots of fans. You have given Dana White a lot of ammunition against paying fighters more, too, in the process. You have. You've given him a lot of ammunition. You've hurt the cause. So thank you, Francis Ngannou, for doing that as a true believer and as somebody who, even though we don't have a lot of followers, I like to consider myself and Dustin, too, a champion for that cause. We bring it up whenever we fucking can. Fighters deserve more money. They get paid scraps, and it's bullshit. But Francis Ngannou acting the way he does, complaining about making $750,000 for just showing up to fight. Dude, shut up. If you just want to show up to fight, be happy with the $750,000 you made in the loss against Stipe. Be happy with it, dude. It's a lot of fucking money. If you want
I'll fight Stipe right now for $750,000. I'll let him whoop my ass. I will stand up and try to fight him and get the fuck out of here right now.
If that's all you want to do is just show up and fight, then be happy with the $700,000. If you want more, you gotta do Connor shit. You gotta do Sugar Sean shit. You gotta do the opposite. You gotta be the hero. You watch wrestling, right? You're a WWE fan or a WWF fan at one point, right, Dustin?
Back in the day. WWF.
Yeah.
WWF. I claim WWF.
So going back to WWF, or if you look at Luchador Wrestling too, there is a hero and there is a heel. You have to pick one. Yep. You cannot make it to WWF, WWE if you do not perfect your character. You're either a hero or you're a heel. There is no in between. Now you can go back and forth just like you can in the UFC. Connor at one point was a hero. Now he's a heel. It can switch, but you have to pick one and you have to market yourself that way. So if you want to be a mean badass guy, Francis, be a heel. If you want to be a hero and the nice guy, make the other guy be a heel by being so nice that it pisses them off. That's how it works. That's how the fight game works.
You can also be a weird, terrible actor like John Cena. And how the fuck?
He's a hero, dude.
He is the worst actor I've ever fucking seen, and somehow he got rich.
How did you see him, though? You can't see John Cena, dude. You can't see him.
He's the worst actor I've ever seen in my fucking life, and somehow he got rich. How the fuck he did it? I still don't get it. But
all right, Dustin. Well, we're gonna wrap it up because we went over our time. We'll talk about Paddy Pimblett next week.
Well, hey, we're already time. We might as well talk about Paddy quick. Just give it 10, 15 minutes. We'll take half and half.
I gotta get going, dude. We will talk about Paddy Pimblett next week. I promise I will put it on the itinerary. We will talk about it. Because I know exactly what you want to say, and I will let you know I agree with you. But we will talk about that next time. We don't have to talk about it now. Guys, please tune in to UFC 270. It's going to be a crazy, crazy co-main and whether we like Francis Ngannou or not, the fight is going to be fantastic. We're both picking Gan and hoping Gan wins, but Francis Ngannou could easily win the fight. But we are going to wrap it up. Happy fight week, everybody. Be safe out there. Be safe and sound. Please don't do anything stupid. And tune in to UFC 270 because it's going to rock your world. Dustin, have a good rest of your night. UFC and fight fans and Unwrap fans, have a great night.